no person, and basically it says anyone that's elected in any state, federal office. It even could go down to like a school board. It could go anyone having previously or currently taken the oath. Okay. This is anyone who takes the oath and has to support the Constitution, who shall engage in insurrection or rebellion. Okay. Or given aid in enemies of the enemies. So they give they have, or given or comfort to the enemy. So here's what happens. And you ask this question, first off, I want you to think about the people who were in 1868. What they were worried about is the people who tried to move away from the South, or the people in the South versus the North, right? And so there was this real contention when they were coming together in this new Congress of the time frame. So they had to really come together, and this was why they had this little thing. But Congress may vote of 2/3 of each house to remove such disability. So Joey comes in, and they had to say, well, okay, Joey, he's okay. We're okay with him, because, he wasn't a bad guy. He wasn't as bad as we thought he was. Okay, fine. We're going to leave him alone. So they have to ask the question, what is insurrection and rebellion? Okay. So and they have to actually, they're asking these basic kind of questions.
And the reason to pay close attention to this, and I'm not even fully sure what you're going to say on it, is that once you determine whatever it is that is an insurrection or rebellion, it makes all the difference in the world of what Trump is about to do or not about to do.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
So you got to know what this is.
You have to know what that is, because this is why that everyone wants to throw around insurrection and rebellion, right?
Yeah.
So what they're going to talk about is that it's what you have to get into is basically corruption of the voting process. Now, Executive Order 13848 in essence states that those who have corrupted the vote, who have messed with the voting situation, and they've done this over and over again. This was done in September 12th of 2018, and it has been re-signed into law. Even Joey Biden did this over and over and over again, and he did that over and over, and we were surprised about it. Even Derek Johnson and I were talking about right before, I think it was in 2022, he and I were talking about it privately and publicly. We were like, maybe he won't even sign it in. We were like, maybe he won't sign it, and we'll be in that new, EBS kind of thing.
You mean, okay, so you're saying, let's get this clear. So you're saying maybe Trump does an emergency executive order, or an executive order.
And it was coming up due to be
it had to be renewed, or it would expire if it didn't get renewed. And in that executive order, he's going to tell you what amounts to insurrection and rebellion, in case anyone's not clear.
He already said, if you corrupted the vote, it was an insurrection.
Well, right, but he's saying that in Executive Order 13848, right?
Right. But he said but if the time frame expired at 9/12, if it expires, then the executive order is over, and we're not in a state of emergency.
Yeah.
And we thought maybe if Derek and I were talking about this, and we thought, well, maybe the state of emergency would be over, and then by the way, we would be in the EBS at the time frame. And we were wrong, because Joe Biden kept re-signing it up. And so we've been kind of interested in this kind of thing.
Can I just ask this, or not to get on a whole new subject, just in a nutshell, do we think Biden renewed that executive order against his will. He just did it.
He did it because he was told to.
Okay. In other words, it's not in his heart to renew it. He was told.
No.
Yeah. He had to renew it. Okay.
He had to do it. And let me show you a little bit about this. So what was the insurrection that they wanted? We all know what this picture was of. This was January 6th.
Yeah.
Wow. Right? This is what they call an insurrection, right? This is the famous picture that they want you to think is an insurrection. And so what did they do to this insurrection? So people need to step back. What is an insurrection? So guys, I want to pause and talk about what an insurrection in their mind is, what the media talks about what an insurrection is. Okay. November 4, we have the election.
Which year are you talking about?
Of 2020. Okay. So Trump loses the election. Joey's in, and we'll talk about that in just a second. We have a corrupted level of vote. It is contentious. It's over and over contentious. It goes all the way, and in all the states, Trump puts his conversation in different states, in SCOTUS states, and he loses in the different states. And people talk about this, that he lost in the different states. No, he didn't lose in the different states. What happened? He was kicked out in the states because they said he had no standing. Well, that's just the most bogus thing in the history of the world. He didn't lose because he had no standing. It was a completely bogus thing, because if I'm going up against Steve, as Steve and I are both part of an election, and I'm claiming that I'm the aggrieved status, but I don't live in the state, but we are part of a national election, and they say Scott doesn't have any standing in the state. I'm like, wait a second. I'm the aggrieved. My name is on the election.
In that state, yeah.
In that state, it doesn't matter that I don't live in that state, which says that those people in Texas and Oklahoma, whatever state that he put into, and there's a whole bunch of different states, including Pennsylvania and Texas, that those states were actually a part of insurrection in and of themselves. Okay, so that led from November all the way through December. It moved all the way up to the United States, the U.S. SCOTUS courts, which happens in late December. And he lost in those timeframes, which meant that they were actually part of treason.
To be clear, to make sure, because you're using pronouns or theys and never. So
the SCOTUS,
you're saying even the Supreme Court justices decided to agree that Trump had no standing, even though this was about him. He didn't have the right to bring it to court because it wasn't about him. He didn't have a standing, which is stupid.
Yeah.
And that was how they decided. And you just said they became part of treason itself for them.
Right. So what they did is they showed themselves to be ineffective. Now it moves into January 6th, and people don't understand what January 6th is. January 6th all is about a procedure. Okay. And this is what Lloyd Brunson was all about. You've had him on your show before. What Lloyd Brunson was about is what Congress is, the two houses. All they had to do for 10 days was to meet together and to be on C-SPAN. They had to have an open forum for 10 days and discuss the conversation about well, what does Trump bring up? Well, this is this and that, all this conversation back and forth. Sorry, someone's texting me here. And all the conversation back and forth about the election fraud issues. That's all they had to do. They didn't have to do anything more.
In other words, that would be the equivalent of them examining if Trump had a case in this. Did he have some points that we should consider? They just had to talk about it.
They just had to talk about it. No one, and so for instance, James Langford of Oklahoma, the senator for Oklahoma, was up talking about it, and Nancy Pelosi, not physically, but because she's a wisp of a person, she ripped him down from that area, and they went down and they went down to their little bunker. Okay, so they went down to the bunker and for this January 6th fake thing. Now, here's what happens. They were actually also they were given 10,000 National Guardsmen, but they denied it, which means the Mayor Bowser actually didn't be a part of it too. So the mayor, all the people part of it. We also have learned recently, just in the last couple weeks, that the DC police was part of the pipe bomber and had shot into the crowd. That one woman, I don't remember her name, but she was part of this. So
Yeah,
they were
Babbitt or something like that. I think her last name is Babbitt.
DC, no, that was the person that was murdered.
Okay.
Ashley Babbitt, or the Babbitt woman. But
Okay.
but here's the woman. She was the police officer in the DC police. Has been identified as the person that was part of this. So you're talking about everything is crazy in here. So all of these people are part of the insurrection, which means that they're all part of treason. So they are the part that is guilty of treason. And so what happens is that this insurrection was created by them. And so we haven't finished this treason part. Okay. And then they tell you and me that this isn't rebellion. Well, this was the LA riots, right? And we say, well, give me a break.
Yeah.
Right. And Karen Bass and Gavin Newsom, they say this isn't anything about this. This is all 14th Amendment, guys. I'm setting up and telling you why.
Well, and can I just make a one point that some people often don't say with a picture like that is, it talks about enemies of the state. They're waving a flag of another country while they're doing this. If that's not all the things, sedition and all the different words, treason and all that, because it talks about enemies of the state and different things. I just wanted to point
100%, 100%. That's exactly it. And this is why even the people that are caught in here are they're caught together, and guess what happens to them? And this is what people don't want to understand. Those people that are caught here by ICE, they don't just get caught. They are, there's a guy who is caught and he's shaking in his boots, and he's
I saw that one.
shaking. It's in Portland. Guess what's going to happen to that boy when he's learning about what's going to be the case? He's not just going to be 20 years in federal prison. He's probably life in prison or more.
Really?
These people we don't understand. We're not even understanding how bad it's going to be for these people.
Part of the reason, Dr. Scott, is that with the left being in charge for so many years, for so many decades, where they were allowed to do all kinds of stuff like that and get away with it. They were allowed to spit on police, tackle police, fight police, gang up on them, take them on, and they were arrested and then promptly let go without even a cashless bail. And Trump comes along and says, we're not doing that anymore. We're going to do what the law says we can do.
It's more scary than you realize for these people. They are and when we call this thing the jig is up, the jig is really up.